Hey folks, welcome back to Fireside 42. I'm your host, Rob Walden. It's been a couple weeks. How y'all doing? Lots been happening. So today it's just going to be you and me again. I tried to get something worked out with the bargaining guys last week, but a lot of stuff happened and it didn't quite work out. So this week it's just going to be us talking. So let's talk. I want to talk a little bit about the furlough right off the bat. So there's been some confusion. So we've got these cards going around. They're commitment cards. Despite what Volkswagen is telling you, they cannot be used for the strike vote. They cannot. It is in the UAW International Constitution that only a strike can be called after a secret ballot election. There is no sneaky nonsense when it comes to strike votes. It's all out in the open. It's all very above board. And why Volkswagen is telling you different, I don't know. There's no reason for them to not tell you the truth. UAW International Constitution is online. Just look it up. Just put it in your Google browser, UAW International Constitution. There's a PDF that will pop up. You can download it. You can read all this stuff. Volkswagen has lawyers of plenty that can digest what's in there, and so they could accurately tell you how the strike vote has to be conducted. Why they're telling you that these commitment cards, and that's all they are. They're just cards that say, yes, if we have a strike vote, I intend to vote yes. It gives our international organizers a feel of just how many yes votes they potentially have before they call a strike vote. And the reason they do that is because if there's only 5 people on the whole plant that are willing to go on strike, there's no reason to call a strike. It would make everybody look bad. It would seriously weaken our position at the bargaining table. And so before they call a strike, they want to know how many yes votes they potentially have. We did the exact same thing before we had the election or the vote for the union, if you'll recall. A bunch of us came around and we had you guys sign stuff so that we could get an idea of how many yeses we had. This is the same thing. There's nothing sneaky or underhanded about this. It's very above board. So why Volkswagen is telling you that this might be a secret vote to go on strike without your permission, I don't know. But anyway, so for those of my colleagues on the MEB side of the house, I've noticed that there seems to be some confusion. If you are in favor of voting for the strike, but at the same time you're considering, well, if I go on strike, do I have to give up my 80% subpay from furlough? That seems to be swaying some people's decision to not sign those commitment cards. It's unnecessary because if we get put on furlough, we are, technically speaking, out of a job. There's a legal definition of what a strike is, and part of that legal definition says that to go on strike, you have to walk off of a job. That's what going on strike means. It means you have an 8-hour day ahead of you, and you are electing to not do that because you are protesting the company's behavior. But if you don't have a job, i.e. you are on furlough, you don't have to go on strike. So for those of us who will be on furlough, should a strike vote be called, and should the actual strike be called, we don't have to give up our furlough status to go on strike because we don't have a job. But because we are Volkswagen employees and simultaneously UAW members, as far as the UAW is concerned, at least until the contract is signed, our being on furlough does not change our status as UAW members. So you still have the opportunity to vote. So we can be on furlough, we can get our 80% subpay, and still support our brethren, our colleagues, by voting yes on the strike vote. So if you were concerned about that, I hope that clears it up. And I hope, for me personally, I hope that you vote yes. I think we've come to a place in negotiations where the only way we're going to get movement, obviously, is to escalate our position, and how we do that is by authorizing a strike vote. So anyway, that's what I have to say about that. And let's talk about this job security video that Christina put out the other day. I made a short video, 10 minutes or so. I put on our Facebook workers page. I haven't yet, but I'll also upload it to my YouTube channel. Christina was extraordinarily dishonest with that video. For those of you who missed my response to it, so Christina is saying that their job security language is plenty sufficient. It says everything that we want it to say. And she attempts to prove that by reading both their language and then reading language from a GM contract and declaring that they're the same. But they're not. One is sort of sophomoric and amateurish. That's the Volkswagen language. And then you have the GM letter, the GM language. This was clearly written by a group of people who have years and years and years and years of experience writing this kind of language. But let me read to you the bits of the contract or the language that Christina read from both Volkswagen side and the GM example. And I'm going to read to you a little bit more because there's some stuff that she didn't read that I think is also important. But here's what the company is presenting to us. The company commits that is, again, there's a bit of a typo there. The company commits that it will not close, curtail, shut down, or liquidate the Chattanooga plant during the term of the agreement. That sounds pretty good so far, right? They promise for the length of the agreement, they won't close the plant, they won't curtail production. I'm not exactly sure what that means. Other than to slow down, but this neither here nor there. And they promise to not shut down or liquidate. Liquidate means to sell off assets. To liquidate the Chattanooga plant during the term of this agreement. That sounds pretty good. Here comes the exceptions. Unless conditions beyond the control of the company arise that make compliance with this commitment impractical. Such conditions include but are not limited to. Now, she goes on to, and I'll read them to you, but and if you watch my video, you know my position on this, but this line right here, such conditions include but are not limited to. That is a get out of the agreement free card. That one sentence literally makes everything that comes before it and everything that comes after it meaningless. And to hedge their bets, they give a lot of specific examples of how they might get out of this contract. But when you say such conditions include but are not limited to, you are saying, essentially, any conditions that we can think of are conditions that are good enough to get out of this agreement. It encompasses everything under the sun. This is the kind of legalese that a lot of underhanded lawyers use when they're trying to cheat people. Companies do this quite a bit. It protects the company entirely. It gives the illusion that we're getting some sort of protection, when in point of fact, we're not getting anything. It's just a bunch of flowery language that has zero weight, zero meaning behind it. Now she goes on, the language goes on to give some examples. Significant downturn in the economy that renders the plant unprofitable or unsustainable. And as I said in my video, we're already unprofitable. We've been unprofitable for some time now. Volkswagen is telling people that they don't foresee us being profitable for another 2 years. So already we're in troubled waters, right? If their nuclear option sentence wasn't good enough, this follow-up sentence condition is. We're already not profitable. So the company at any moment can pull chocks. Close shop, bug out back to Germany. Leaving us with nothing. Not a thing. We're just out of a job one day. Number 2, changes in tech that make the plant production methods obsolete or uncompetitive. And as I said in my video, I'm going to reference that a lot. I'm pretty sure that Chuck and our marketing team have tried to get language in our agreement that protects us from just such a condition. It's not unreasonable for us to expect our company to make wise investment in upgrades to our technology, right? I mean, if this company wants to stay in business in a market that is changing daily. It's a foregone conclusion that this company should be investing in technology to keep us apace with our competitors. But instead of doing that, instead of agreeing with us that, yeah, if we want to stay in business, we should do this, they're instead using it as an out to potentially close this plant. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to close plant, but they could wake up one day, we could come to work one day and be like, hey, look, technology's gotten behind. We're not keeping up with our competitors, so we've sold a share of our factory to Audi. We are now an Audi Volkswagen factory. We're getting whole new technology in here. And also, by the way, there's no longer a union. We don't have to agree to anything that we negotiated with. This is our out. Do you see how sleazy and underhanded this can be? It's not that they're necessarily going to do it. It just renders us vulnerable to such behavior. I mean, and honestly, look, if they're unwilling to give us the kind of peace of mind that we're asking for, there's probably good reason for it. You know, I gave the example the other day. If my kid's got his hands behind his back and he's clearly not wanting me to see, and I say, son, do you have something? And he says, no. And I say, son, can I see? And he says, no. And all of a sudden, the more he protests, the more he tries to not show me what's behind his back, the more obvious it is that he is hiding something from his dad. The company's the same way. This language that we're asking for is to protect us. And the more they protest giving us language to protect us, the more we have to recognize as responsible individuals that there's smoke here. And we need to ask ourselves why. What's going on? What are they hiding from us? What's behind their back? The third condition, market-related volume decline that impacts the plant's viability. Listen, we're already in a market decline, right? As I said in my video, I got to go on furlough. I'm getting laid off in a couple of weeks because we're not selling enough product. So 2 out of 3 of these conditions so far have already been met, right? Economic downturn, right? Everybody's hurting right now, and we're not selling enough product. So at any time, Volkswagen can make a change, and it doesn't necessarily mean closing the shop, bulldozing the factory into oblivion, and disappearing entirely. It could just mean changing the name on the front door for a fresh start. We're no longer Volkswagen. We're now Audi. We're going to do things different. We're going to make it better. They wouldn't have to buy a factory. They wouldn't have to build a factory. All of the infrastructure is here. They're just changing the name on the door, deleting our contract, and we're back to square one again. Why? Because we don't have protections here. That's what this contract is. This language that Christina read to you. It's an illusion. It's fraudulent. I don't know of any other way of conveying to you what I'm seeing here. It's fraudulent language meant to cheat you. Now, let's read the GM language that she shared with you. And I'm going to read a little bit more than the highlighted portion that she read. And again, I go into much greater detail, I think, in my video. So watch that also. Here's GM's contract. In our negotiations and the many discussions which took place over it, this will confirm that during the term of the new collective bargaining, agreement, the company will not close, idle, nor partially or wholly sell, spin off, split off, consolidate, or otherwise dispose of in any form any plant, asset, or business unit of any type beyond those which already been identified, constituting a bargaining unit under this agreement. That sounds pretty solid to me. Like they're not giving a whole buttload of examples of ways they can get out of this agreement. They're giving us a whole buttload of examples which locks them down into the agreement. They're saying we're not going to do this or this or this or this or this or this or that. It goes on to say, in making this commitment, it is understood that conditions may arise that are beyond the control of the company, i.e., market-related volume decline or acts of God, and could make compliance with this commitment impossible. Impossible. This letter says there may come a time when shit gets so bad, it is simply not possible to adhere to this agreement. Otherwise, we're going to. That's not what the Volkswagen language says. Volkswagen language says, yeah, we can have an agreement until we don't want one anymore. That's what it says. It's just concealing that with legalese, with nonsense language. Now, it's not in what I've written here, what Christina read to you, which you can go online and find. I've seen people posting it on the workers page and some in our WhatsApp channel and whatnot. There's more to this. There's considerably more to this, and some of that is language that outlines, I believe, what happens if they violate the contract. What mechanisms does the UAW have to get redress if GM or Ford or whoever violates the contract? There's mechanisms there to get relief. If GM just decides, okay, we're just going to close shop. I know we made this agreement, but we've decided that despite that, it's in our best interest to just close the shop. There's language there to make sure that people get at least the amount of money owed to them based on the contract that GM agreed to. And that's something that's lacking entirely in anything that Christina read. And listen, we're saying that there's a definite difference between the language that Christina wrote or her bargaining team wrote and what was in that GM letter. Christina is telling us they're exactly the same. They offer the exact same protections. Then we shouldn't be concerned about it. So my question is, if it makes us feel better and the two languages are doing the exact same thing, why not just use the language that we prefer? Wouldn't that just solve the problem? I should think so. But clearly, Volkswagen does not. There's a difference in the two languages. They prefer theirs. They don't want us using the same strong language that's in that GM letter, in that GM contract, in that agreement. Because they've given themselves a nuclear option, a nuclear out. And that's just, for her to tell us that they're the same is extraordinarily dishonest. So, as it happens, when you do a podcast at home, sometimes you have to stop and start again another day. And that's what I'm doing. But that's fine. That's why the sound is so obviously different all of a sudden. I had to take care of some stuff yesterday. And so I'm finishing tonight so I can get this out. This is Wednesday. I'm about to upload this so you guys will have it at least by tomorrow. But that's okay. That was the job security was pretty much all I really wanted to talk about. I think that's pretty damn important. You know, I don't. It's hard. You can't really stress enough just how important it is to have this job security language. All of the other stuff that comes with our contract doesn't mean anything. We don't have a job to go to, or if the company decides to change the name on the door and erase all the hard work that we've had to do. That would be devastating for so many people to find themselves in a situation where we have to start all of this mess all over again for like the fourth time. But anyway, hey, listen, I don't know if it's going to happen, so don't hold me to it yet, but I'm going to try to get an interview with Chuck Browning. I had an initial conversation with him. He seems open to the idea, but there's a lot going on right now. But if I can score that, I'll let you guys know. And I think he'll have some pretty interesting things to say. In the meantime, y'all keep your head up. Keep fighting a good fight. This is Fireside 42. I'm out.